All right, it's time to talk NASCAR on Prime Sports Network with Eric Smith of RaceReviewOnline.net. Eric, how's it going?
Good. Glad to be back from Mid-Ohio, and now we got another just a standalone a race. I should say standalone. They got the Xfinity series with them, but you don't have IndyCar and NASCAR and between Cup, Xfinity trucks, and F1 and everybody all at once. So now it's kind of like, okay, let's focus just on NASCAR this weekend. So glad to be able to do that.
So no IndyCar until next Sunday, the 17th?
Correct.
Okay.
They're at Toronto then on Peacock. So it'll be a race that nobody will see.
Okay. Whatever. The race on Sunday that we handicapped last week, the Road America race, was a race that unfortunately was not on Peacock, so nobody could see. That was just
USA's getting that way. USA is. I wrote about that here a little bit ago. That it was on USA, but I'm starting to think that's a terrible network for sports to be aired on. So it looked like less than 2 million viewers on that for a 4th of July weekend race. So
good.
They need to revisit that.
Yeah. That was just, now you were so lucky that you were at another racetrack.
Correct. Yeah.
Because that had to be the worst race of the year. Had to be terrible.
By the polls, Jeff Gluck's poll and everybody else, from what I saw, it looked completely terrible. It didn't take me. I'll put it this way: when I got home, I did a lot of my writing. We just drove back from the track, so I did my writing that night, and then finally about midnight, I got done. I was like, all right, let me catch up on my NASCAR stuff so I can be ahead for Atlanta. What happened? And took me all about 10 minutes to figure out, looked like it was a pretty straight. Chase Elliott dominated. Tyler Reddick passed him in the end, and not a whole lot else happened.
That's it. There was Chase Elliott dominating the first 75%. Tyler Reddick leading the last 16 laps. End of story. I don't even think there was a caution in the race.
No, other than the stages, from what I saw. That's it.
I mean, come on. I mean, they just, please. I mean, you just can't keep coming to that track. You can't do it.
No. I think we're to the point now then where maybe it won't hurt to try the street course at Chicago in comparison, because I think
definitely
it's not a good track. It's not a good track for Cup. I mean, it's 4 miles long. It's more built for open wheel. Like IndyCar puts on a good show there, but for a Cup race, it's not a 4 mile track where it's. And it sounds to me like these cars, from like what Chase said, like I was catching up on there, I don't think you're going to get much better for this new car and for what you see on road courses. I think it just kind of is what it is.
That's okay.
And knowing
because
that,
we love everything else.
Exactly. We're to the point where we kind of questioned this last year. Are we oversaturating the road courses? Are we adding too many?
Yes.
Well, maybe 6 is too many if this is what you're going to get. So, and if the street course doesn't work next year, well, then you find something else.
Absolutely.
But the crowd was good from what it looked like. The photos and videos looked like it was a nice crowd, but I don't know. Again, how do you keep a crowd's attention when it's one thing, again, as I preface this, seeing an Indy car flying by its speed and strategy, because there's a speed of them, is a lot different than seeing a big boxing NASCAR going by with a lot slower speeds with no passing. It just, what's the point?
Yeah.
It's just, especially for 4 miles. I just don't think that track is good for a Cup car.
Well, hopefully we won't have to deal with that much longer. Big race for me for fantasy because you were nipping at my butt last week. But Tyler Reddick gave me a win. And that was big. So I opened up my lead just a little bit.
Yep, just a little bit. And I say between you and I, that's 13 wins and 18 races for us this season. So I got 3 guys in the top 5 or 6 or something like that at the end. So I didn't get the win, but you got the win with Reddick, and just keep cruising right along.
Yeah, only still 125 points separate us, and CJ is now 135 points behind you. So
yes, I just look at our teams and just look at what the playoff guys on that. Now you got Reddick. I still struggle to think we're going to see more than 16 winners. Now he's going to. I think where he is in points anyways, he's solidly in. You got Briscoe in, Bowman, Blaney, all my guys, other than Almirola, are in. We could have 80% of the playoff field just between our two teams when we get, and those races pay more too.
Yeah.
So it could be a tight battle here.
Oh, it certainly
for a while.
will. Nothing's going to change anytime soon because we don't have any.
No.
The points don't really start opening up again until the playoffs. So
yep,
we only have 2 prime points races now because they took away. I think what was it? I think because one of the races we had, which was Bristol, but it was during the playoffs, so it didn't make any sense to do it that way. If they bring back Bristol earlier in the year, that'll become a prime, race. But we can only hope that'll happen.
We're to the point now with our team to where CJ's at, to where I was last year. You almost look at his team and like, you might be able to make a trade there, only because if you look at his team, I just don't trust Austin Cindric's going to do much in the playoffs. He's a rookie.
Well, the good thing is he's actually, he's much better now than he was winning Daytona. So at least he's doing well. He's doing a lot better than Dillon and Jones at this.
Exactly. You're looking at his team right now, and Truex isn't a guarantee anymore. Byron's really faded. I don't think Dillon and Jones make the playoffs. Cindric's probably a first-round exit. He's really only got 2 guys that you might be able to, like, hey, I'll give you a couple guys that will be in the playoffs if you want to part with. I'll give you 3 playoff guys for an Elliott or a Busch, and take a couple of your lower guys. It's an interesting.
Has CJ ever made a trade?
I don't know.
I don't think
That's
so.
What'd be interesting to see if he'd part ways. Because I mean, if you look at the fantasy, and I wrote about this in my midway point, Blaney, which we've talked about, seems to be turning it back on. He's a guy I'm watching the rest of the year. Bell's so close to winning. Harvick, we know what he can do. Reddick's got to win for you. Briscoe and Bowman are at least second-round drivers, I feel like. So you're pretty set for at least getting some guys into the second, third round. Hamlin, Chastain, Logano, Larson for my team, I feel like are all round of 8 type guys. Suarez, you never know what you can get. Kurt's always good for at least a round or 2. CJ, I only really feel good about Kyle and Elliott making even out of the first round. So it's like you can word it to, hey, I'll give you a couple of guys that will get you to the round of 12, and you'd have to probably take a Jones and a Dillon from him, knowing that those guys probably aren't making the playoff. Because why would he part ways with the top guy? But it's like, I'm going to give you 2 guys points wise, and I'll take 2 of your bottom guys, and I'll take one of your top drivers.
All right, so I just I'm scrolling through your website now where you have the fantasy article from the 4th. Yep. This recaps everything that happened on the 3rd. And so here's my, and again, the easy way is just check it out on racereviewonline.net.
Scroll to the bottom.
But you see it here. This is my team. Yep. This is Eric's team. And there is CJ's team there. We have all the league transactions, everything that took place. And we also have the driver standings. So, and CJ's got the top 2 drivers.
That's what I'm saying. If you could get one of the, because you could look at it as you get into the playoffs. That's what, as the points increase per race, you may look up and 10 of the 12 guys into the second round belong to you and I. He may only have 2 guys left, and I don't think those 2 guys can outpoint the 10 between you and I, where it's like, look, I'll give you a couple of guys that can make it to the round of 12. If you give me your top guy, I'll give you 2 more guys to kind of even it up. Because I think Kyle and Chase arguably have a shot of winning this championship. But that's about all he's got. I don't think anybody else. You can make a case right now for his team. Dillon and Jones, I could pretty much say they're not making the playoffs. They're going to have to win. And what makes you think that those 2 are going to win? Truex could be in some hot water if he doesn't win. Byron, we've seen him fly way backwards.
That's the deal. Is will Truex? I still think there's a way for Truex to. Now that his decision is behind him, we just haven't gotten to the part. I mean, last week was not fair to him.
No,
it's now a done deal. Toyota, they're not doing anything on the road courses this year. Forget it.
No, and you got to look though. There's still 3 left. There are 2 left in the regular season and in Daytona. So you could kind of write Truex off on those. Now I wonder, and you look at this way, out of the 3 road course races we've had this season, there's been a first-time winner in all 3. What if we get in? What if Truex? You're now almost putting Truex in a box where you might want to win, because now you're in a battle. Blaney, I feel like, is safe no matter what. He's right. Blaney, here's what I hope happens. Blaney wins the regular season title without winning a race, because you get in to the playoffs because of that. I feel like he's leaps and bounds points wise. Even if you get 15 winners, nobody's catching Blaney for that wild card spot. Now it's down between Truex and Bell. What if Bell wins? What if Bell finds the win? What if Harvick wins? Truex is out. It's like now you're almost need to get a win, and it's like, I don't know, out of the tracks left, do you feel good with him winning on some of those tracks that's left? It's like, well, he might be in some trouble. Did they, in my words, piss away the first half of the year by debating this contract situation, giving up all those points that you could have got a win somewhere, that it could have hurt him? That'd be a question later the season asked. Did you waste a lot of time figuring this out that cost you? Because you could have got wins on some of these tracks that we've seen your teammates win. So that's why I look at CJ's team. Truex is, if he gets it on, he can really turn it on, but he's got to get there first.
Yep.
And right now you could make a case he may not get there.
Yeah, Byron is another just history of what's going on there. We all kind of felt after the second win, which, by the way, is the last time Byron has registered a top 5.
Top 5.
With the
Martinsville
one
top 10 his last 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
he's got 1 top 10 since. Yeah, it's.
We thought that was it. That all right, here he comes, and then I don't know what's going on. I mean, because Elliott's fine and Larson's still okay. He's not like last year, but he's okay. So what the hell's going on with Byron?
Yeah, Byron's gone way backwards, and this is not what you want to see at this day. I thought plus 1,200 this week was a little steep for. Yes, he won Atlanta in the spring, but this is more of a super speedway type race, and it's like plus 1,200 for a guy with 1 top 10 in his last 10, and there's a lot better drivers elsewhere. That shocked me a little bit. So yeah, he's going backwards, and you just got to hope for his sake he can find a way to turn it around quickly, because he's a first round exit at this point.
Absolutely, and we know he struggled too to get out of the first round so far. Okay, so Quaker State 400, and thank goodness we have this race in between these road course races, which haven't been all that great. And then we've got New Hampshire next week and Pocono after that. So thank goodness we have a chance to have it, because I'm going over my notes for the race in March, the Folds of Honor Quick Trip 500. So I'm going over because we can't handicap this race by using any other Atlanta past track races except March. That's it. And
that's it.
And so when you look at March, I'm going, wait a second here. Stenhouse led 22. Elliott led 29. Chastain led 42. Kyle led 21. Byron led 11. Logano led 12. Suarez led 13. Bell led 16. Harvick led 11. Isn't that what you like to see every week in NASCAR? So I don't care what anybody says about, Atlanta wasn't all that great. I mean, what do you want? I mean, what else do you want than having like 6 or 7 drivers that have all led double-digit laps?
Yeah, it was a true super speedway race. What was it, like 40 lead changes, something like that, on like 20-some drivers. It was both race records. So, yeah, that's what it's going to look like. The only thing I caution over, it's going to be a pack race. We know that. You're not going to get a lot of separation. The only thing that's going to make it a little bit different, I feel, is it's going to be 20, 25 plus degrees hotter. It's in Georgia. It's in July. The race in the spring was in the 60s. It's going to be in the upper 80s, low 90s. So with heat comes less grip. The amount of the track was repaved. It's going to be less grip. It's going to be a little more handling. Yeah, so you're going to see maybe it spread out a little bit in the pack. Not as because with the cooler temperatures, new surface, it closes it up like we saw. Now with the heat, it's just going to make it a little bit slicker. Guys will have to get off the throttle a little bit more, which is going to create a little bit of separation. But that still doesn't mean the chaos isn't going to stop, because you're going to see guys probably lose it in the middle of the pack now because it's going to be slick and called. So it's still going to bunch it up, just not as close. Plus, remember last time in Atlanta, we saw those tire failures because of the new tire and the big load it's taking in these turns. So I'm curious if they got that fixed. They reconfigured the wall a little bit going into the dog leg at turn 1 to kind of make it more rounded, like they did at turn 4 prior. So they've got a little bit of slight changes, but it's still going to run like a pack race. Like Kyle Busch said in his weekly release, that they literally took their past notes from last year prior in Atlanta, threw them away. They don't correlate anything anymore. So the only thing you have to look at, to me, is Atlanta, Talladega, and Daytona to base this race off of.
That's right. And I didn't look. How was post positioned, by the way? That's the one thing I didn't look as far as. Do you remember whether or not that had any? Let's see. Byron started 12th.
12th.
Okay.
Yep.
And let's see. LaJoy finished 5th. Starting 33rd. And you did have only one driver in who finished in the top 10 that started in the top 5, and that was Joey Logano starting 3rd. So that's that's good. So don't worry about where you're starting in this race.
Don't worry about qualifying. Yep.
If you're Kyle Busch and you screw up again in practice, which has been an issue for him the last few weeks, he's going to be okay this week. Yeah.
There's no practice anyway.
Oh, okay.
So he's good.
There you go.
They're literally just qualifying.
There you go.
So, that's why I would get in on these odds now, just because don't worry about qualifying. Naturally, the guys that qualify up front, they'll change the odds for him, but there's no sense. I'd bet on it now, just because there's nothing that you're going to see from qualifying that's going to change your mind. It's a pack race. You're running?
What do you think about the fact that Chevy had 5 of the top 6? Do you look at that as, hey, that's definitely something that I have to put into my handicapping, or do you just think that's just the way they're worked out? Especially with all the different cars that led laps.
Yeah, I would a little bit, and here's why. Because if you look at the 3 super speedways run this season, Chevy's won 2 of the 3.
Okay.
Granted, Ford looked really good in Daytona. Ford was, bar none, like top 5 every session, dominated. But Talladega and Atlanta was more Chevy. So if it's just Chevy again Sunday, then yeah, I would say maybe for Daytona and next month, and then Talladega, maybe we got to look at Chevy. Maybe they have something for the super speedway package.
Okay.
Right now, it's for winning 2 out of 3. I side a little bit to them. That's why I also punt a little bit on Toyota, because out of the manufacturers, they're the worst on super speedways right now. So yeah, I'd say it's a long-winded answer. Yeah, a little bit. It'll say a lot if they dominate again on Sunday.
Let us know what you think. If you have any specific questions for us, we're here to answer your questions. So Eric wasn't able to answer. One of our viewers had a question regarding the top 3, what we thought would be the top 3 on Sunday. I answered, but I was wrong, even though Reddick was in our picks. But I could only pick 3, and Reddick wasn't one of the 3. I actually went with Cindric, McDowell, and with Elliott winning. So that almost came through, but Eric wasn't able to answer that question because he was at the track. He was at Mid-Ohio.
Yeah, and in the middle of nowhere with cell signal being good at times and terrible at others.
Okay.
Yeah, if you've never been to Mid-Ohio, it's literally an Amish country.
Ooh.
A lot of Amish around there, a lot of cornfields, a lot of woods. You're just driving down. It's not anything to pass a horse and buggy. Maybe the locksmith huts over here, and then you got a bunch of cornfields, and you're going to turn right on this country road with and there's some roads that are not paved. I found out trying to get extra track to get our own traffic, and boom, there's a racetrack. So as you can imagine, sometimes if you're close to the media center and you're on their Wi-Fi, you're good. You stray a little way off, yeah, it's going to be a little sketchy getting some internet signal. So yeah, I did not get a chance to. And I'll be honest, I don't think Reddick. You and I were the only 2 that had him. He, betting wise, was a pick, but I don't know if I would have put him in my top 3.
We just got our money back basically with Reddick.
Yeah, just kept the momentum.
Yes,
get a little bit of money and move on to the next
one. Because now I've got 5 straight winning weeks, and you have 4 straight winning weeks. So we're catching up to CJ. It's been a long,
slowly but surely.
Yeah. So. But anyway, like I said, if you have any questions for us, just let us know. Same thing with fantasy, any fantasy questions, things of that nature. or even if you have your own thoughts on anything that we talk about on the show, please let us know. And we would be appreciative of that. And of course, like, subscribe, and share the video if you like the video. Sharing is always awesome for us on social media. Okay, so how many drivers do you think we all predicted together?
It's more of a wild card, so it'd be more dry. I'm just gonna go in the middle at 5.
6.
6.
And
okay.
we had a couple favorites, and I'd say a couple of contenders actually, and the rest were like contenders / long shots. But two were kind of the favorites in that group, that first like 9 group of the 10 to 12 to 1 shots.
Like the 10 to 12 to 1s. Yeah, I'd say Elliott.
No.
Blaney. Not Elliott?
Not Elliott. Blaney, yes.
Chastain.
Yes. That's it. So, and that's because of me, really. And I mean, CJ went strictly down the line with, like, what did he have? 7 of the top 9 from 10 to 12 to 1. I didn't take.
He went off top.
What's that?
I said he went all top.
Yeah.
Top heavy.
I didn't take any of the 12 to 1 shots. None of them. And I also didn't take Elliott. But we both went with, we all went with Blaney and Chastain. So who are the other 5? 4, excuse me.
4, was McDowell one of them?
Yes. McDowell at 35 to 1.
Harvick?
Yes, he's at 30 to 1.
2. Kurt?
Yes. He's at 25 to 1.
So one more. He's probably not Bell.
No.
No, not Bell.
DJ didn't take Bell either. You're the only one that took.
Trying to think here. Trying to think of who is in that range.
CJ and I actually went with Truex. You did not go with Truex. You went with Bell instead.
Yeah, I didn't trust Truex. We'll get into him.
He's a long shot.
Did we take Jones? Did I take Jones?
Yes, Jones.
Was it Jones? Okay. I was trying to remember if I took Jones or not. Okay.
Yeah,
I did.
So Blaney, Chastain, Kurt Busch, Harvick, McDowell, and Jones. Those are the 6 drivers. We all took the same. And again, so you've got those 9 drivers that are considered the favorites between 10 and 12 to 1. And I decided, actually, that I was going to take a chance, which is the reason why I didn't take a lot of those 12 to 1 shots, that I was going to put a little bit more money on a couple of drivers. And the one that I put the most money on was Blaney. I actually put 35 on Blaney. So I'm trying to win big on Blaney because he hasn't won yet. This is a track that suits him.
Yep.
It's overdue. It's time to win a race, Blaney. So if he doesn't get wrecked, he's got to be up there with a chance to win the race. In my opinion.
I think his momentum's changed. I know I said you can't take much or anything from past Atlanta to new Atlanta, but if you put it all in the pot together, he won a race at Atlanta last year. I think you can make a strong case that Blaney is top 3 super speedway drivers in the series today. I mean, most of his wins are on them. And he also enters with some momentum. He's got 3 top 6s in his last 4 races. His worst finish was 11th at Road America last weekend. So I'd say you combine all that. That's why I went with him and Elliott up top. Because I felt like they deservedly should be up there. And Blaney is definitely one that I would not be shocked for him to dominate this race.
So out of the top 3, who would you take?
Honestly, probably him, Blaney. I put more on Elliott just because it's his home track and he's got 2 top 2s in his last 2 races. But without money involved, Blaney. I'd say go Blaney.
And who's so out of the 3 super speedway drivers, it's Blaney, Hamlin, and who's the 3rd?
Yep. Probably, I'd say if you take some finishes out of it this year, well, you could even throw some in there because he was top 10. Keselowski. I mean, he's got 6 Talladega wins. The only thing he doesn't have is a Daytona 500, but he was 9th this past year. Remember, he was really good in Daytona this year. He was the one that was wrecking everybody, it seemed like, up front. But I'd say Keselowski's probably third. I can't ignore he's got like 7 or 8 total wins on super speedway.
Okay.
So I put him in that top 3.
Yeah, it's tough for him though in the situation he's in now with this team.
Yep.
All right, so again with Blaney, again keep in mind he won the second stage earlier this year, leading 15 laps, and he was also 4th in the 500. Chastain, meanwhile, we all have money on Chastain, 2nd in this race last year, leading 42 laps. He won Talladega, and it looks like he's slowly starting to get his momentum going again after what took place last month, where because look, payback hasn't happened yet. So
no,
but maybe he's just not really, that's just not an issue anymore. So you kind of feeling, hey, maybe this is a perfect time for Chastain to get another win, because he was going hot there for a while, and now he's kind of gaining momentum back again.
Yeah, he's top 10 after top 10 after top 10. I mean, you can make a case, which I wrote in my preview article, is you take your top 3, Elliott, Blaney, Chastain, or a bunch of sleepers, because it feels like it's going to go that direction.
Well, that's basically what I did, probably, except not taking Elliott. But
yeah, I mean, because Chastain, like you said, I mean, I looked in March for this race, he was plus 2,400. Now he's plus 1,000. He's a co-favorite. It just shows how much that they've noticed that he's doing now. This car last year, if you remember, right? Granted, again, it's a different racing style, but still, this car won last year. Kurt Busch won this race last year. Chastain was 2nd in March. Chastain is like 4 top 8s in a row. I mean, he's right there. He's in the thick of, hell, he could win a regular season championship. I mean, plus another win gets 5 more playoff points. So, yeah, he's right there. He won Talladega. I mean, that's 2 top 2s in 3 super speedway races this year. So I don't think you can dismiss him at all.
All right, and then we get to those 12-1 shots. You put money on Kyle and Bubba Wallace, and CJ put the same amount of money on Kyle, Logano, Larson, and Hamlin. So again, he's got those top 7. He did not put money on Wallace or Byron. None of us put money on Byron, who dominated this race in March, and nobody touched him. For me, with Wallace, it's just I can't take him at 12-1. I can't take him with the same odds as those other drivers. I understand what you're saying, but come on. I mean, he's got 1 win, which was not a full race to begin with. And yes, this is his best track. This is his best setup. I get that, but not at 12-1. I just couldn't take him at that number.
Yeah, it was tough for me, but I thought at the end of the day, I'm after a win and at least breaking even. And I thought, oh, he finished 2nd in the Daytona 500. He finished 2nd in the Coke Zero 400 last year. He won Talladega. If you remember coming to the white flag, he was 2nd again. He just waited too long, I felt, to make a move on Byron. But I think you replay all those 2nd places and all that change, he's got to do something different this weekend. Because let's be honest, for him, other than here in Daytona on the regular season finale,
there's a chance.
If he doesn't win, this is it. So I feel like they're going all in, which I guess one thing we talked before the show about a storyline between the races this week so far. I think one of them kind of reminds me, I forgot about, is this. They switched his pit crew. A lot of his pit crew. He finally gets a new pit crew. They took a lot of Christopher Bell's guys and put them on. But here's what I think is kind of dumb. Christopher Bell holds the final playoff spot. You just gave him a shitty pit crew. You have a car in the playoffs and just gave him a bad pit. Why did they do that? I don't understand that. I don't understand it. I get Bubba needed a crew, but you might want to find some guys elsewhere rather than taking them from the guy that needs.
When did this happen?
Points. And yesterday. They just announced it, and that's like that doesn't. So Bubba's got a new pit crew. So that factor all that. I thought, well, maybe some new energy. He knows this is it. This is it. I mean, you don't want to go to Daytona.
You're only doing that though for the regular season.
I would say if Bell's got Bubba's old guys that are now on Bell, if they struggle with him, but Bell makes the playoffs and Bubba doesn't, I think you swap them back. But I think right now, I just don't agree with the
No,
move
I don't
only in
either.
the
No,
sense.
yeah,
Now, if Bell was back in points, then I can see, but he needs the points. He's got the last playoff
he
spot
hasn't
right
won
now.
yet.
So he hasn't won yet. So now you kind of exit him out of this equation.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know how much it's going to factor this weekend. But moving forward, some of the races it could. But I think maybe the new energy, maybe it helps Bubba. So I thought for 12-1, it's a little steep. But do I think he can win? Yes. Do I think he has to win? Yes. Factor both together. I just threw some money his way.
All right. You also put money on Suarez and Bell, as you said. Like I mentioned, I put money on Truex. So did CJ. And for me, with Truex, look, considering what did he finish? 11th? No. What did he finish last week?
9.
13th.
Oh, last week, 13th.
Which wasn't bad considering. And he was in the top 10 for the second half of the race. But I look at him and I go, wait a second. All right, he finished 8th earlier in March. He was 5th at Talladega. He won both stages at Daytona in the 500.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he's never really been a good racer on the super speedways, it's always been a mystery because he was really good at the super speedways in the Xfinity series. So I didn't understand why he never carried that over to the Cup series. So I know he could race well in it. And maybe now this year, for whatever reason, maybe this car is just a better fit for him with the super speedway package. And he's got the momentum again. I mean, he's got the personal issues behind him. So I figured at 20-1, now that he showed a little bit of something on the super speedways, that's why I threw a little bit of money on him.
The only reason I didn't, it was between him and Suarez. I went Suarez way because he was 4th in the spring race, Chevy driver. I feel like he'll be working with Chastain a lot. So I figured they'll be there. Truex was like it was in front of my face. And I was like, he's 20-1. You're getting a good driver for 20-1. But he's 0 for 25 in Atlanta. He's never won, even on the old.
And he never won on the Daytona or Talladega.
I think he's like 0 for like 68 there. That was like literally combined. Yeah. So like that's a lot of offers that are reaching 0 for 100 range. They're like, you know what? Suarez just won a few weeks ago. He could use another win to help bolster because he's kind of on that bubble where if we get 16, 17 winners, he might be the one bounced because he's kind of on the low man of the totem pole of points scored. So that he could use another win to guarantee his way in. So we see what Chastain can do on super speedways. I sided with Suarez.
Yeah, looking at it right now, though, I think I think I would take Suarez over, even though Cindric's picking it up and Kurt Busch is picking it up. If you have that battle, which right now it looks like it would be between Cindric, Kurt Busch, Briscoe, and Suarez, I kind of think Suarez. I might go Suarez number 1 out of those 4. Possibly.
I would too. I mean, he's got a good team. He's not a rookie. He's done this before, and they seem to qualify well, so they could get some stage points. And it seems like, I think if you had one man on the totem pole out, I don't feel like he'd be that guy. I feel like he's smart enough to get the points that he needs if he needs it. So, I would be a little nervous if I was Briscoe or Cindric, to be honest. More Briscoe because he's really coming backwards again. Yep. But that's if we get there. I mean, you have to get 17 winners to get there. We got 13. So it's like, do you get 4 more?
And
that'll be close.
And we talked about it last week with needing the stage points, and Briscoe went ahead and won stage 1 last week.
See, that's why.
Even though
gets you the playoff point.
He didn't finish in the top 10, but he got some stage points. So.
And that helped him stay where he is. So that's the game you're going to start seeing here over this final couple months, is because you have these guys needing the points, and it like I said, you look, it's arguably. I don't know how many guys below the cut line do I feel good, because we're getting these winners. You've got to find 17 guys that is capable of winning first. Like Kevin Harvick as an example. Do I feel like he can win a race right now? No. Should he win? Yeah, it's Kevin Harvick.
He can win a race like this.
61.
But can he win a regular race? Yeah.
That's where I look at. You only have this, Daytona, and the other 2 road courses. There's 4 races left. That will get you to 17. The others, I don't feel, unless you go off strategy, which is where the points game comes from. That's where I feel like that's going to be the main thing to watch moving forward, is who does what.
Then at 25-1, we all took Kurt Busch, and why not? Kurt, he was 0-4. not too long ago, but finally broke that string. But unlike Truex, he has a ton of top fives and runner-ups in the super speedways before he finally broke through and won one. He was third in March, and he's going on this really strange every other. If we look over his last 7 races, he was 28th, first, then 31st, third, 18th, second, 23rd. So that says top 5 on Sunday.
Yep, he's due. Yeah. And again, like as I said, he it's hard to say, but it's true. He's a defending race winner. He won this race last year. He was third in March. He's a good super speedway racer, and like you said, it seems like every other week he's up to something good. And if you keep it like this, there's a pattern here: 1, 3, 2. Are we back to 1, 3, 2, 1? And it's every other one.
Yeah.
He's got 3, 18, 2, 23 is 1 the next, and you're getting it for 25 to 1. Yeah. He's a 3-time Atlanta winner, so I'm not for 25 to 1. That was one of the first ones. I was like, no brainer. I'm going. I usually pick my guys that are no brainers. I look at the favorites and sleepers. I usually look at like 15, 16 to 1 on back. I'm like, all right, which of these guys do I feel is a no brainer? I've got to have him in here. And he was the first one. When I looked at him, like 25 to 1, I'm definitely going this direction with him. And then I start playing with the money from there. But he was the first one.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying with Wallace. There's just no way should Bubba Wallace be 12 to 1 and Kurt Busch be 25 to 1.
They should flip-flop is what it should be.
I mean, come on. That's just, are you paying attention to what Kurt Busch does on this type of track? It's just, hey, good for us.
They're giving away almost free money is what I almost look like. Hey, it's almost free money right now. If Kurt wins, you're giving me free money at 25 to 1.
We all capitalize.
Yep.
And then at more drivers between 25 and 30 to 1. So you have Kurt Busch, Cindric, and Harvick. CJ has Kurt Busch and Harvick. I have Kurt Busch, Harvick, but then I threw money on Almirola, Buescher, and Dillon. So with Almirola, we know he could win on a track like this. And again, is this going to be the week that he wins? It's possible, so why not? Buescher, yeah, I know he's been a little bit better on the road course races, but he was a respectable. What was he? 7th, I believe, earlier this week.
Yeah, 7th.
Yeah,
7th of March.
And he's got a good partner, obviously. And Keselowski. And then you got Dillon, and we know he can run well on these tracks as well. And if you take a look at Dillon, even though he was in an accident earlier this year, he was second at Talladega the last time we've seen the super speedways. So that's the reasoning for that. With Harvick, he's definitely the biggest bargain, which is why we all took him, just like Kurt Busch, because he is more than experienced at this type of racing. He doesn't have great results this year, but it's just he's on such a streak of top 10s and finishes that this would be he has to know it too, that this is one of those races that I need. If I'm in the top 10, I got to try to find a win this race.
Like you said, he's dominated the old Atlanta. Dominated. He's won a lot of laps. In fact, he won the July race 2 years ago. So him and Kurt, oddly enough, the last 2 July race winners are 25 and 30 to 1. And Harvick was the second guy that must have. I had Busch because I was just going in order 25 to 1. I was shocked to see Harvick at 30 to 1. I thought, like, no way, again? So, I feel like he's in an awkward position of only being like 20 points below the cut line to where you're almost with him. What do? Do you ride in the back to be sure you're there in the end and not get stage points, but could fall further back? Or do you try to get enough stage points and hope maybe something happens to Bell where you're back on the good side leaving this track? They're in a tricky position that I think it's going to be dictated a lot by what Bell does and what he does. Because if Bell's riding to the back, then you're like, well, do we get the free points, or do we just ride back here with him? No, we're not really going to lose any ground, but let's position ourselves to win. He's in a tricky spot, but because that's been their MO. If you notice, he went through a long lull of restrictor plate super speedway races where he was getting caught up in crashes and like 20th and 25th and worse. And then a couple of years ago, they figured out, if you notice, at super speedways, Daytona, Talladega, the Stewart-Haas camp was always trailing. Hey, you guys go ahead. We're going to run all four together. We're not going to lose the draft, but we're going to be here together. You get the stage points. We'll be around in the end. And that's why they've been around in the end. Do they go against that this weekend? Or it's being a 1.5-mile track, there's not a whole lot you could go back and avoid carnage, because if it happens, you're a lap down at that point. So I'd just be curious what they could do. But for 30-1, it's like, even if they do that,
chance, yes,
you got to take.
You don't have to waste that much.
That's
money.
why I went a little bit lower with him than I would have. But yeah, for 30-1, definitely worth a gamble.
And then the last of the bunch, we all have money on McDowell at 35-1. And McDowell, he's still in a nice little streak. By the way, 7th at Daytona, 8th at Talladega.
Yep.
And he's on, what is he now? 6 top 10s in the last 10. So hopefully for me, he's on my fantasy team. He'll keep this going. But we all have him. We all have Jones. Jones is not in a good situation because he needs to win. There's no question about it. So that's good for us picking him, because we know he needs to win. He's won Daytona before. Yep. And he's got a couple of top 5s at Talladega, and he was 6th at Talladega this year. So we know Jones can handle this type of racetracks. So just for McDowell and Jones, who would you take if you had to just choose?
Oddly enough, probably Jones, only in the sense, I think we'd throw this whole thing upside down again. You get a petty GMS car in. But 2, remember Talladega, if memory serves me correct, wasn't he leading the final lap? And then that's when he got shuffled back to 6th. He made a wrong block. Wasn't he dominated at the end of that race? And I'm pretty sure we talked about it on the show.
Well,
I think
remember,
he made
Dylan was the one.
They separated.
Dylan was the one that came out of nowhere. And it looked like he was going to win.
They went the block. Yeah.
And I forget what happened.
Yeah. Larson was pushing Jones, but Larson was backing off of his bunt. Yeah, Jones was leading. So Jones led all the way up to 3rd and 4th turn of the final lap. So I'm like, he's there. Petty usually has good cars like this. So McDowell, I feel like he's either going to get a top 10 or wreck trying. It just seems like that's the kind of luck he has at super speed. They don't run up front a lot. They'll ride in the back and then they're there. So I just feel better about Jones. Just maybe because it's the last time super speedway in my brain. That's what he did.
Well, yeah, and McDowell's got much better opportunities than Jones the rest of the way, because McDowell can do well on the road course, or he could do well on a super speedway. So those are his 2 best tracks, and that's what's gonna. He's got chances.
Jones, I feel like at this point he's in the Bubba Wallace. This and Daytona, that's it. And you've got to go for broke here. And like somebody like Jones, as an example, or McDowell's kind of on the outside, you can kind of get stage points, and you're kind of far back, but you might be able to point your way in with some bad luck. Jones points doesn't matter to him.
Gotta win.
Gotta win. So we'll see what they can do. But yeah, there's not a lot of separation here. Speed's not. You're not going to have a lot of disparity from the big teams and the small teams searching for speed, because it's a 1.5-mile track and it's all bunched together. So this is that. In fact, you could make a case this may be a better chance for him than Daytona is. It's less of a crapshoot here. If you can get the handling with the speed right, you less risk, I'd say, than Daytona. Daytona, it's a free for all. Here, a mile shorter, 100 miles shorter than the race in the spring. So we'll see what can happen.
And then Stenhouse, both CJ and I put a few bucks on Stenhouse, but instead of you putting money, the same $4 that we invested on Stenhouse, you decided to take those $4 and split them up, $2 each on Custer at 100-1 and Haley at 100-1.
Yeah, Stenhouse has struggled on these tracks this year for some reason. 28th in Daytona and 31st in Atlanta, and
he did lead 22 laps though.
He did
in the March race.
And I think he had a tire problem, if I'm not mistaken, was what took him out. So I just feel like, oddly enough, his best tracks are 1.5 this year. Custer, you get him at 100. You give me a Stewart-Haas driver for 100-1. I could do every week. I just take it. And then Justin Haley, I just feel like we talked about it. Other than the last 2 weeks, prior to that, he had a couple bad weeks between there, but it's all top 15s. He was running in that lead group in Atlanta. Remember, he was the one I think that hit Bubba Wallace with that big crash on the final lap. So he was up there. He won Daytona. That's his only win. So, like, why not? For 100, 201 or whatever. We'll just throw some money his way and see if something crazy happens.
All right, so next week is New Hampshire, and what's the deal with New Hampshire? What do you think we're going to see next week, since we haven't seen New Hampshire with the new car?
Probably a hybrid between Martinsville and Richmond.
All right.
What I'm curious with New Hampshire is, in the years past, which we'll talk about this next week, New Hampshire's been the championship for preview. It seems like the guys that have done really good at New Hampshire were always the ones that were at Phoenix doing well.
Okay.
So does that trend happen again this year? And if so, the Hendrick guys have struggled at New Hampshire. I don't think they've won since like 2012. And they didn't finish good there last year, and they won a championship. So it didn't all the way equate last year, but we'll see. It seems like the guys that do good there do good in Phoenix. However, that's where Stewart-Haas becomes the equation, is they're really good at New Hampshire with the old car. Like, hence Eric Almirola winning last year's race. So if Stewart-Haas is really good and Briscoe's already got a win, does one of those other three find a way to win and get a playoff berth? So New Hampshire could be another spot that shakes things up again, but we'll see. That's not raced there with this new car yet, so that could change things too.
Well, we'll see what happens on Sunday. I mean, if we get another first-time winner, especially if it's not a driver like Blaney, that looks like he's already in anyway, then it could just then the drivers are going to start to get a little bit serious about what's going on.
If you get a Bubba or Eric Jones or Justin Haley, you could even throw a McDowell in that. You get somebody like that wins this race, then you're sweating at this, because that only leaves 2 spots available, and we know Blaney's got an inside track for one of them. If we don't get more than 16 winners, then if you're Blaney at that point, do you almost go for the regular season championship? No, and that's a guaranteed spot.
True.
He's within like 31 points right
now.
Is that your new focus? Win that, because you're in. It doesn't matter if you win. The regular season champion's the number 1 seed. Get that, you're in. It doesn't matter. So that's a thing. It's an underrated thing. I think we probably should. Maybe we'll be the only ones talking about and getting a lot of attention for it, because that's going to be a thing.
7 races. Of course, more than 2 new drivers can win in 7 races, especially with Daytona and a couple more road courses.
Indy road course and Watkins Glen. Yeah, I mean, you could. We might get, so you could get the 16 winners and Blaney not be one of them, but Blaney wins the regular season title without being one of them. One of the winners is going to get bounced. So Blaney, that's why I said at the top that Truex worries me a little bit, because I don't think the wild card tracks, Toyota's been honest, they're not good there. No, they're not good at super speedways and road courses. So it could be real interesting. This is what we've been wanting. Yes. I think Fox dubbed the best season yet or ever last year.
Right.
They're a year off.
That's right.
It's this one.
Should have saved it. Yeah. And then don't forget also, you can check out racereviewonline.net, where we have our futures. We'll talk more about that in the next couple of weeks. So we'll take a look. But if you want to see exactly who we invested in to win the championship, you can see that on the website at racereviewonline.net. And we'll have a link for that as well, so you can check it out on the description area of this show. So that's going to wrap it up. Great job as always. Appreciate your time, Eric. And we will talk to, by the way, another 7 weeks, and we'll be talking to CJ.
Yeah, we're getting close. We'll be back on.
Yeah, we'll do our playoff preview show, and it'll be time for CJ to start working again on our channel. Yep. So, but it's still a couple months away, but we're getting there. It'll be here before you know it.
It'll go quick. Yeah. Yes, it will.
All right, man. Thanks, Cubs fan. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.